This is Masechet Brakhot, Daf Chaf Amud Aleph, and on the very last line of the Amud begins the mishna Nashim va'avadim uktanim Piturin Kriyat Shema, that women, slaves, and children are all exempt from the mitzvah of Kriyat Shema, umin hatfilin, and from the mitzvah of tefillin, v'chayavin b'tfila mezuzah v'birchas hamazon, and all three Nashim Avadim Uktanim are obligated to daven daily, to put a mezuzah on the doorpost, and to say Birchas Hamazon. The Gemarah, in its analysis of the Mishnah, focuses primarily on the halachot of the women, and begins with Kriyat Shema. The women are exempt from Kriyat Shema. The Gemarah questions Pshita. This is obvious that women should be exempt from Kriyat Shema. Mitzvah Seisha Zman Gramahu. It's a positive, time-bound mitzvah. It's a mitzvah that you must do, not to refrain from doing, and it's time-bound, and it only is applicable at certain times, namely in the evening and in the morning. So therefore, we know already from the Mishnah Masechet Kiddushin that women are exempt from all mitzvah seishes man grama. Why is it necessary for our Mishnah to specify the fact that women are exempt from Kriyat Shema? Again, Kriyat Pshita mitzvah seishes man grama, huvachol mitzvah seishes man grama, nashim pituros. Women are exempt in the Mishnah in Kiddushin Daf Chav Tet Amud Aleph. So the Gemarah responds, that it wasn't so obvious. I would have thought to say, Hoyel, v'itpa malchut shamayim, since Kriyat Shema contains in it our daily acceptance of our belief of God, our Kabbalah or malchut shamayim, I would have thought that women would be obligated in Kriyat Shema as an exception to the rule, that even though it's time-bound, since its importance is central to Judaism, since women are obligated, of course, to believe in God, therefore, we might have thought that women should be obligated to say Kriyat Shema. Kamash Malan, therefore, our Mishnah comes to tell us that women are indeed exempt from Kriyat Shema, and it functions as a typical positive time-bound mitzvah, and therefore women are exempt. The Gemarah goes on to analyze the Mishnah. Tefillin, the second mitzvah listed in the Mishnah, is that women are exempt from tefillin. Here too, the Gemarah questions Pshita. This is obvious. Tefillin also is a positive time-bound mitzvah. Tefillin is not applicable at night. We can't wear tefillin at night. We don't wear tefillin on Shabbat and Yom Tov. So Pshita, it's obvious that women are exempt. It's a mitzvah seishes man grama. So here the Gemarah responds, Ma'u what I would have thought to say is Homil ve'itkish lemezuzah. Since tefillin is taught in the Torah right next to mezuzah in the Shema, we have Ukshartam also Yadecha, Vayutos Ve'inacha, Uchsav Tam, Al Mezuzah Esecha V'Sharecha, that since these two mitzvahs are juxtaposed, I would have thought that just like women are obligated in mezuzah, as the end of our Mishnah says, because it's not time-bound, I would have thought that tefillin also is obligatory on women because of its relationship to mezuzah through the hekesh. And the Gemarah responds, Kamash Malon, therefore our Mishnah tells us, don't make that hekesh, rather, women are exempt from tefillin as a regular mitzvah seishes man grama. The second half of the Mishnah begins and says that women are obligated in tefillah. Why? Because tefillah is our opportunity to ask God for racham and for mercy. Mahu detema, I would have thought, since it says about tefillah, erev avokav tzarayim, since our prayers occur at night, morning, and afternoon at designated times, and each tefillah has its own time, I would have thought that it's like a positive time-bound mitzvah, and women should be exempt from tefillah because of this. Kamash Malan, therefore the Mishnah tells us, presumably, that since it's Ranchamim, since it's our opportunity to ask God for mercy, we make an exception and obligate women in tefillah in order to have the opportunity to ask God for mercy. Uve mezuzah, and the Gemarah continues with the next halacha that women are obligated in mezuzah pshita. This too is obvious. Why would women not be obligated in mezuzah? After all, mezuzah is a positive, non-time bound mitzvah, women are obligated in such mitzvah. So the Gemara responds, Mahu Tema, what I would have thought to say is Hoil V'Itkish Talmud Torah, that mezuzah is juxtaposed to Talmud Torah in the Kriyat Shema. We have in the second paragraph of Shema, the mitzvah of Talmud Torah, and then immediately afterwards, the mitzvah of mezuzah. And I would have thought to compare the laws of one to the other and say that just like women are not obligated in the obligation of Talmud Torah, so too women are not obligated in mezuzah. So Kamash Malon, the Mishnah comes to tell us that mezuzah is not connected to Talmud Torah, but rather functions as a typical mitzvah say she'ein azman grama, and women are obligated. And the final halacha of the Mishnah is Birchas Hamazon. Pshita. This too is obvious. It's not time bound. So I would have thought that Birkat Hamazon, even though a person could potentially eat a meal at any time in a day, and therefore be obligated to bench at any time, since we typically eat at set times, I would have thought it functions as a mitzvah seishes man grama. Maybe it's like a mitzvah seishes man grama. Kamash Malon. Therefore, the Mishnah comes and teaches us that since fundamentally a meal can occur at any time, and the mitzvah of Birkat Hamazon therefore is applicable at any time, therefore women are obligated in Birkat Hamazon. The Gemarah continues, Amar Rav Adav Ahava, Nashim chayavos b'kiddush hayom dvar Torah. Women are obligated to make kiddush on Shabbos d'oraisa. Amai, why is this the case? Mitzvah seishes man gramahu. It's a positive time bound mitzvah. Mitzvah seishes man grama nashim p'turos. Women should be exempt. Kiddush of Shabbos, for example, only occurs on Shabbos. So therefore, it's a positive time bound mitzvah. Women should be exempt. Amar Abaye means Rabbanan. Abaye says no. It is positive time bound mitzvah. Women are exempt d'oraisa, but d'Rabbanan, the Chachamim obligated women as an exception to the rule on a rabbinic level. Amalei Rava argues and says, "V'advar Torah kamer." How could you interpret the statement of Rav Adav Ahava to be an obligation that's rabbinic? He used the words "dvar Torah," which means it's biblical. That's one. And secondly, v'od kol mitzvah seid chayvinu midrabanan. Furthermore, what rationale is there to obligate women to say Kiddush and Shabbos on a rabbinic level, despite their exemption from the biblical obligation? They should do the same for every mitzvah that says on Grama. If the rabbis don't like the exclusion of time-bound mitzvah, so women should be obligated in all of them rabbinically. If the rabbis accepted it, so it should be a universal exclusion that should be exempted. What particular reason would there be to obligate women in Kiddush on a rabbinic level? Therefore, Rava argues and says that really the women's obligation is biblical. And it's biblical because it says in the Pasuk Amar Kra, Zachor v'Shamar. It says in the Torah, Zachor is Shabbos Lakat Show, which is a positive mitzvah to remember Shabbos through Kiddush. It says Shamor, to guard the Shabbos means to not do work on Shabbos. And we have a tradition that Zachor v'Shamor v'Dibur Echad Ne'emru. They were really both said at Sinai simultaneously. And therefore the mitzvah of Zachor and Shamor are connected. Kol sheyeshnu v'shmira, yeshnu v'zechira. Then if we're going to juxtapose two things in the Torah written next to each other, we should certainly juxtapose two things that were said simultaneously. And therefore we juxtapose the two and connect the laws and make a hekesh and say, whoever's obligated in Shmira, in the mitzvah not to do work on Shabbos, Yeshna B'schira should also do the positive of making Kiddush. Nashi, since women are obligated to not do work on Shabbos because it's a lo taseh, Itnu B'zechira, they're also obligated in the positive of remembering the Shabbos through making Kiddush. Anyone who has to refrain from work has to also sanctify the day and define the purpose of this refrain from work as remembering the purpose of Shabbos. Dropping down a little bit lower on the daf, Darash Rav Avira. Rav Avira offered this drasha. Zimnin Amar Rav Shmeid Rabbi Ami. Sometimes when he said this drasha, he quoted it in the name of Rav Ami. V'Zimnin Amar Rav Shmeid Rabbi Asi. And sometimes he said it quoting Rabbi Asi. He said that the Malachi Ashares said to God, Ribono shel Olam, God, it says in your Torah that God is a person, is a being who is completely just, who does not favor anyone, and doesn't take bribery, can't be bribed or seduced. He's completely just. But the Malachim said to God that you indeed do favor the Jewish people. God will show favor to the Jewish people. How can that be? So God said to these questioning Malachim, could I not favor them? They're deserving. Shekatavti lahem b'Torah, I wrote for them in my Torah, v'yachalta, v'savata, u'verachta Hashem Elokecha. I told them in my Torah to eat, and when they are satiated, v'savata, they should bless God and thank God for the gift that they received. V'heim, but what do? They follow the rabbinic laws, which compels them to bench not only after a full meal, but even after a small amount of eating. They have taken on themselves, the Jewish people, with the guidance of the Chachamim, to eat, to bench, if all they ate was kazayas or kibetza, slight difference of opinion, whether it's Rav Meir says it's kazayas and Rav Yehuda says kibetza, but either way, a smaller volume than a meal of just the size of an egg or just the size of an olive, and they bench and are thankful for that. They are so scrupulous with my mitzvah. How can I not favor the Jewish people?